To our amazing listeners of SheMD, we record SheMD here in Los Angeles, and like thousands of others, we've been displaced by the fires that have devastated neighborhoods across the west and east sides of the city. I raised my boys in the Pacific Palisades, and my heart is heavy for everyone affected by these unimaginable fires. It's a tragedy beyond words, and we want you to know our hearts are with each and every person touched by this event. Even in the midst of this, we know that Los Angeles is strong, and we know that we as a community can come together to help each and every one affected by these fires. We're going to continue to share episodes of SheMD with important conversations about health, wellness, and hope, which especially feels vital right now. If you've had to evacuate or lost your homes, hold on to hope. Wherever you are, please remember to take care of yourself, your family, and your community. We'll be sharing ways to help the victims of this tragedy on our socials all week. And now, here's this week's pre-recorded episode of SheMD. Sending you so much love, Mary Alice and Dr. A.
Hi, I'm Dr. Aliabadi. If you struggle with irregular cycles, acne, facial hair, body hair, hair loss, or insulin resistance, you might be dealing with PCOS, or polycystic ovarian syndrome. Having dedicated my life to helping women with PCOS, I understand the challenges in getting an accurate diagnosis and the right care. That's why I created OV, a science-backed alternative to prescription medications. OV is designed to help you take control of your health with clinically proven, validated ingredients in a simple, once-a-day solution. For too long, women with PCOS have had to choose between lifelong prescriptions or complicated supplement regimens. OV offers a better way to help manage your symptoms without the hassle. It's my mission to empower women facing PCOS and other hormonal issues by providing the information and support they need. Reclaim your health once and for all. Go to OV.com. That's OVII.com and start today.
So, Dr. Will Cole, you were hugely inspirational for us starting this podcast. I'm so thankful and honored that you're here, and Dr. A and I could not be more excited. So can you start off by just telling our listeners, how you ended up having this incredible practice and a little bit of your journey?
Yeah, so I was always a health nerd. I grew up in a home. My dad was I'm going way back here for you guys.
Okay.
The inside scoop. My dad was a bodybuilder in the 80s, and I thought it was normal to have your dad like beefed up like Arnold Schwarzenegger with like lubed up in baby oil and a turquoise Speedo. But then I found out in hindsight, that's not normal.
It's not that normal.
No, it's like not all the dads are doing that. I don't know. Mine was. My mom with those 80s camcorder, like getting the right pose, and we go and shop at the health food co-op. I grew up like super crunchy, but in that sort of fitness world. And this wasn't in LA. This was in the backwoods of Western Pennsylvania. And I grew up, and then I kind of wanted to own it myself. I really was fascinated about how science is. So my first job was at the finish line selling shoes at the mall, but I'd use my paycheck and I spent all my money on the latest superfoods and biohacks and like foods that I read about, supplements that I read about the research on. And I was like biohacking before biohacking was even a thing. And I then wanted to be formally trained in this. So I went to an integrated medicine school, and there were MDs and DCs and DOs and acupuncturists and nurse practitioners all kind of learning their craft in healthcare. And I graduated knowing, I really wanted to immerse myself in the space of functional medicine. There weren't really many those of us talking about it that early on. I moved back to Pennsylvania because I love the woods and I was writing a lot. I love writing. So I would write articles every week on different websites. So I had to figure out logistically how I could get them labs, how I could provide them telehealth care. I didn't even have the language for telehealth 15 years ago. We called it a virtual functional medicine clinic, because that was the best I could come up with. But then over the years, this is all that I've done. And then telehealth became a thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I've been doing. So I love getting to the root cause. I love figuring out why people have hormonal problems and autoimmune issues and metabolic issues and getting them healthy. And the podcasts and the books and all this other stuff are just outpourings of that love for people and optimizing their health.
What are your favorite biohacks? You've been biohacking since you were a little boy. What are the ones that you actually think work?
What if you call these biohacks, like wellness tools, however you want to call it. So I love infrared saunas, increasing circulation, increasing dopamine and like mood, increasing detoxification pathways, lowered inflammation levels. So I love that. I think cold plunging has its place judiciously. You shouldn't be overdoing it, but 5 to 11 minutes a week, and then over time increase the time and lower the temperature, because it's a great way to support vagal tone, lower inflammation levels. Look, our ancestors would just call this life, right? Because they just had cold lakes.
They were just cold outside and then hot by the fire.
Yeah. So we have to call these biohacks, but it's just me trying to decrease this evolutionary mismatch. Like, how can we live like our ancestors lived so we don't have to settle for these chronic health issues? And it's a great way to do it. I think not for everybody, but I think ozone therapy can be great, that I consider a biohack type advanced therapy to help with people that have chronic Lyme. We see a lot of mold toxicity cases and SIBO cases. So ozone can be wonderful for these SIBO and mold and Lyme cases. I love hyperbaric oxygen therapy, HBOT, for people that have brain fog, fatigue, metabolic issues. So those are some other, none of these in my mind are fads, because they're going to be here whether pop culture is paying attention to them or not, because I just see a significant improvement in people's lives and they're consistent with these therapies when they need them. I'm not saying everybody needs all of these, but they have their place.
Can you explain to the listeners that don't know, what's the difference between a functional doctor and an integrative medicine doctor?
Well, yeah, it's this training and the standard model of care is largely, it's just set up differently. They both have their places, right? But the main difference is, if I had to boil it down, the first thing we do differently in functional medicine is we interpret the labs using a thinner reference range. So anybody that's listening to this or watching this, they know when they get their lab, there's their number, and then there's this X to Y interval. That reference range is based on a statistical bell curve average of people who go to labs. Predominantly, people that are going to labs aren't the healthiest group of people. So it's not really looking at optimal health, it's looking at average, which we need. But there's a lot of people, especially women, that know intuitively, like, something's off here. My brain fog, my fatigue, my weight loss resistance, my inflammatory symptoms. So by the time somebody's diagnosed with a metabolic problem or an autoimmune problem or something like this, researchers estimate it's about 4 to 10 years prior to that diagnosis. These things largely, for most people, don't happen overnight. So we want to look at, where does the body function the best? Like, where does vibrant wellness reside? Where does health span and longevity reside? So we're looking at optimal, not average, so that people can feel optimal, not average, because average today is by no means a good quality of life. And the second thing we do differently is we run more comprehensive labs. Similarly, in your space, Dr. A, we're looking at these beyond the basic things that are just not ran. I mean, they could be run, but the system's set up to diagnose the disease and match it with the medication, which has its place. But a lot of things fall through the cracks when you're just looking at the sort of pharmaceutical matching game. So we want to look at things like gut health, microbiome health, and the wealth of research out there looking at gut's influence on many things, like our hormones, like our brain health, like inflammation level. We want to look at environmental toxins, which when you look at the epidemic rise of infertility levels and autoimmune problems, you have to look at things like microplastics and forever chemicals and herbicides and pesticides. And we look at things like nutrient deficiencies and the metabolism and your hormones in detail. And a health history determines those labs. So we're not running labs just for the sake of it. but we want to look at what are going to be the pieces to that person's health puzzle so we can give them answers. And then we realize everybody's different. It's bio-individuality. We're not going to have a cookie cutter approach to getting healthy. And even if you get the same diagnosis code, 100 people, you're going to have different variables for person to person. So we want to look at the art and science of healthcare. So we use food as medicine. We use herbs, botanicals, natural medicines like to address issues and support issues. We use medications when needed. We use mind-body practices. We use biohacks to really, what are the needle movers? How do we address these complex health issues? So as you can see, we are getting people healthy. We're improving their labs, we're improving their lives. And I love what we get to do.
I want to add one more point to what you guys do that's maybe a little bit different than the traditional medical care that patients receive is preventative care. One problem we have in this country, there's no preventative care, which is what I try to do in my office, but it's hard to do it as a gynecologist because you do need support. And I feel like a lot of the functional medicine physicians look at the root cause of the issue instead of treating the disease. It's very helpful. So that's why I think combining the two, it's so important. Because the traditional healthcare system right now, we wait until you're diabetic, we treat you. We wait until you have a stroke, we treat you. We wait until you have a heart attack, we treat you. We wait until your hip needs a hip replacement, then we replace it. There's really no preventative care. So, we all appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, can I ask can we dig in a little bit into some of your books? You've written 4 books, and I when I look at your books, I feel like those are almost the compartments of your expertise. You've got intuitive fasting, gut feelings, ketotarian, and the inflammation spectrum. Well, let's start with intuitive fasting.
Yeah, I titled that book to kind of give a window into our approach to telehealth patients, is it should be an individual, flexible, intuitive approach. And all of these books, as you mentioned, they're kind of like when you have endless conversations with patients and you hear similar questions, you're like, okay, it's time for a book in this way. So people that don't have access to a functional medicine doctor, they can get a book and learn sort of a functional medicine approach on different topics. So intuitive fasting was our approach to intermittent fasting, which is taking into account bio-individuality and context and nuance and this sort of art of fasting. It's like small pulse things that are stressful to the body will make the body more resilient and healthier. And that's what fasting is. But too much hormesis is not good, right? You don't always be fasting. It's starvation. So but pulse dose of these medicines can be really beneficial. So when you're talking about women and their hormones, there is a dance, right? If someone has a menstrual cycle, there's a judicious, eloquent use of this medicine of fasting. So I recommend a cyclical menstrual cycle fast where certain times of the month they're fasting more, some of the times of the month they're not fasting at all. So I don't like the overly reductive perspective on things like this because the context around it matters. And then it's also, who is the woman, right? It's like, it's easy to say, well, women, fasting equals bad for women, but who is she? Does she have PCOS or doesn't she have? Because someone with PCOS actually tends to respond really well with cyclical intermittent fasting versus if someone doesn't have PCOS, doesn't have insulin resistance, it should be lighter with that intermittent fast. So I think that the intuitive component of it is super important. And the cyclical component of it's really important too.
And then gut feelings. I love this because I think there's so much misinformation on prebiotics, probiotics. There's this biotic, that biotic. Should it be refrigerated? So what? Yeah. Again, we can't sum up all of your work because this is such a big part of what you do. But what tests do you run, and what do you recommend in terms of prebiotics and probiotics?
My thoughts on the prebiotics and the probiotics and the postbiotics and the parabiotics, all that stuff. Food is first. I mean, the shocker there, that's my take on it. Food is first. You cannot supplement your way out of a poor diet. But so I would start with focusing on fiber-rich foods, to digestive tolerance, right? You want to be judicious with fiber. Sometimes fiber can cause flare-ups for people with SIBO. And that's why we have these sort of nuanced conversations with people. Sometimes we have people do a very low fiber diet while we heal their gut. But if we're doing our job in improving resilience, there should be a time where we're able to slowly, low and slow, increase the fiber-rich foods, and it will love them back and they'll feel good, because the more diverse your fiber intake from fruits and vegetables will produce more diversity in the microbiome, because the fiber is, by its very definition, the prebiotics that is food for the probiotics, which will then produce postbiotics, which are these end products of bacterial fermentation. So I think focusing on food, polyphenol, antioxidant-rich foods, extra virgin olive oil, even coffee, polyphenol content in coffee and green tea. I am a fan of spore-based probiotic. You just want to make sure that they are quality, they're third-party tested, the strains that are backed by science, and they're supportive. They're not a replacement of good food, but they definitely can be therapeutic needle movers. So I do think there's a time and place for supplementation when you have food as a foundation. From a diagnostic standpoint, well, first of all, just checking with your bowel movements. That's the best test, right? So the normal on like the frequency information on the Bristol chart, which is sort of the conventional bowel movement chart, we want 2 to 3 snakes a day. That's how the frequency and the formation of your poops, we want it 2 to 3 snakes a day. You're never going to look at snakes the same way, but it is a good way to say, if I'm going less than that, or if I'm always having diarrhea, or if I'm always having like pellets, what's my body telling me? These are check engine lights that your body's saying, my microbiome, my gut health, and largely systemically, my body's telling me something. You want to understand and look at where does the predominance of the immune system reside, which is in the gut. So these gut, whether it's the stool test, blood test, or SIBO breath test, would really give us a large array of biomarkers to understand what are the pieces to the puzzle as far as somebody's gut health.
This girl only gets 2 to 3 snakes a week. What does she do about that?
Okay, if you're only getting 2-3 snakes a week, we need to up the snake production for sure. So we have decreased migrating motor complex. It's IBS-C to some degree, right? There's probably some dysbiosis going on, maybe some SIBO, which is a type of dysbiosis, bacteria overgrowing. So we want to prune some of these opportunistic and pathogenic bacteria. We want to support that parasympathetic. So bring in things like breath work and meditation, up the amount of fiber to digestive tolerance. I love an Ayurvedic herb called triphala. Helping magnesium deficiencies can help in this way. Even probiotic rich foods can be helpful here. Healthy fats can be very helpful. I have some people do like an apple cider vinegar and extra virgin olive oil shot. It can be cut with some water, but like in the morning, having some apple cider vinegar with the sediment, the mother, as they call it, with some extra virgin olive oil or a polyphenol rich fat, and chugging that down in the morning can be really helpful too. So it's a mixture of food, supplements, and mind body practices to be supportive of that vagal tone.
And being aware, I just want to add one last thing, medications. There's certain medications that do make patients constipated. I have a question for you. Most patients don't have access or don't know about functional health doctors. Let's say a middle-aged woman, perimenopausal woman, you can pick any age you want. When they walk into your office, can you walk us through that office visit? What you do for them, what you talk about, what tests you do?
So I started the first functional medicine telehealth clinic over 15 years ago. So actually, I've never seen people in office the way that a traditional doctor would. So we're not replacing their primary care physician. We are providing them functional medicine guidance and support. And honestly, that will, when it's needed, have Zoom calls with their local doctor to loop them in on things that we're finding and things that we're all on the same page when it's needed. And we want to be collaborative with their local doctor. And we're filling in the gaps where maybe people are kind of falling through the cracks. So it starts with an online call, and we're talking for an hour and a half, depending on the complexity of the case. And that's just the initial visit with me or somebody on my team. And that's the one-on-one concierge telehealth that we've done the most of for the past 15 years. So we're asking a lot of questions like we look at things like the outer third of your eyebrows. If your outer of your third of your eyebrows are thinning, we ask like seemingly obscure questions, but that's a sign that the thyroid hormone is off. If you crave salty foods, we talk about these sort of things that aren't really talked about oftentimes, that are clinical pearls for us to see what labs are relevant, what should protocol look like, what are the areas we need to be looking at. The science and art of what we do really begins with the health history. And you really can get curious and inquisitive and ask things that have never been asked before, to uncover things that have never been uncovered before in that initial health history. And it's a beautiful moment, which I know, Doctor, you've seen this over your years of just like, that's where the tears happen. When people know that they're being understood and they're being seen. Yeah, it is beautiful.
All right. She
'Cause
says
they
that. She
feel-
says that all the time. That they feel heard, they feel seen, and that's where the confidence starts again. Because lots of times that
Because
happens.
unless they trust you, you can't even treat them. So they need to feel safe. They need to know that you
Yeah.
care. They need to know that you're there. I always tell them, I'm on your team. I'm not against you. I'm on your team. So I
Yeah.
want the best for you.
When somebody comes to your office, what are the top 10 tests that you think that you should absolutely have?
Perfect. So we'll start with some labs that people can do. And some of these are going to be ones, well, let's start with just the conventional test that anybody's PCP, GP could run, right? But we run them for people around the world too. So first, I would say your fasting glucose. Your fasting blood sugar in the optimal range, not the slab's reference range, but optimal, not average. We want fasting glucose to be under 90. So if your fasting glucose is above 90, that's starting that spectrum of, okay, the body's telling us something. We're not regulating our blood sugar as much. Why would be the question that we would have to ask and uncover that. So we would run a look at the A1C. Obviously, we want it to be under 5.7, would be the 3-month average of your blood sugar. I would look at triglycerides or circulating fat. The optimal range for triglycerides in functional medicine is under 100. You could see triglycerides high above 100 years before somebody's diagnosed with something. So we want to look at HDL, or good cholesterol, what's oftentimes called good cholesterol. We want it to be above 59. If it's below 59, it could be a sign of insulin resistance. I love what this is a conventional test, but it's called a nuclear magnetic resonance, or NMR test. It's advanced lipid panel. So we're looking at small dense LDL particles. We're measuring insulin resistance. Love that test. So we can look at the context of the cholesterol, because cholesterol by itself is not a good predictor for assessing if there's a problem or not. About half of people who have cardiometabolic issues and heart attacks and strokes actually have normal to low cholesterol. So it's by itself incomplete. So we want to look at these inflammatory small dense LDL particles, which are protein carriers of cholesterol. I love running, obviously, inflammation tests like high sensitivity C-reactive protein. We want it under 1. So does the Heart Association and the CDC. Homocysteine, we want under 7. That's another inflammatory protein, which you could see high in a lot of people, and they don't even know it. I would look at an iron panel. Looking at ferritin specifically for female hormone health, I want ferritin at least 80, and it's low in a lot of people, especially
I
women.
was going to say, it's so rare to see that.
So rare. I mean, so rare, common, not normal. So we need to deal with these nutrient deficiencies. Our food isn't what it used to be, and people's hormones aren't what they used to be, and they're having heavy periods. It's, you are educating people. It's not normal, and it's depleting iron. And if I had to put, I think I'm at number 8, if I'm counting correctly, but the 9 and 10, there's a full thyroid panel, I would say, which is more than 2 biomarkers, but I would run TSH, total T4, total T3, free T4, and thyroid antibodies. If I could just highlight thyroid antibodies here, is the leading cause of low thyroid function in the West is autoimmune in nature, or Hashimoto's disease. So running thyroid peroxidase antibodies, running thyroglobulin antibodies. So I want to understand sort of the autoimmune component if it's warranted on labs. And Hashimoto's disease is the most common autoimmune condition. So those are some top labs that we run for patients.
A lot of the labs that you talked about that were about insulin and insulin resistance, and I know that they're calling Alzheimer's and dementia type 3 diabetes. And so, and I know you've done a lot of work and talk about that. I know you're seeing a lot more autoimmune. Are you seeing a lot more insulin resistance, from teenager all the way up?
Yeah, it's very common. I mean, it's at 7% of people are metabolically healthy. So 93% of people in the United States, whether they know it or not, are at least somewhere. It may be mild to moderate, but look, that's a grace period of what, like you said, doctor, like what can we do now? Like, let's catch it before it becomes something big. But yeah, so it starts with labs to assess all of these things. And we have that baseline. And then food is first, like really optimizing nutrition, focusing on the foods that love their body back and decreasing the foods that don't love their body back right now, looking at their gut health, bringing in supplemental support to support glucose control and blood sugar regulation and insulin sensitivity, lowered inflammation levels, addressing the environmental toxin component, which can be contributing to insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome, bringing in things that support detoxification pathways like glutathione and glutathione precursors and binders that can be helpful in certain circumstances. So it's going to be a combination effect, sort of a confluence of factors that are going to be needle movers, that over time, there's not a single patient that we don't see improvement in the biomarkers, because when you give the body what it needs, the body's going to do what it was designed to. They don't know that their body's capable of so much more.
You just feel that way, and you think that's how you're supposed to feel, where you
Yeah.
can feel so much better.
Can you tell us, I love this, can you tell us your top 10 remedies for treating the top 10 conditions for patients who go through your clinic?
And I would say there's so much bioindividuality. I see so many different types of patients, see many autoimmune cases. I see many hormonal problems, many digestive problems. So it's gonna definitely be in that list of 10 is gonna be different depending on what we're talking about.
Well, you wrote a book on inflammation. So let's talk about that. We see it a lot on our podcast with PCOS. What are the best foods for anti-inflammation? What are the best supplements? What are the things that you're using with your patients to lower the inflammation?
Well, I would say, first of all, we're going to probably go over 10, but I'm going to give you all of them. I'm going to give you all the ones that come to my mind, at least. So I would say first, let's focus on the foods that probably don't love you back right now. And what I mean by right now, when the body's in a state of dysregulation, inflammation, chronic inflammation is the dysregulated inflammatory response. Inflammation is not inherently bad. We just want healthy, measured inflammation responses. So what I call the inflammatory core four are the foods that don't love you back. But when we improve resilience, you can bring some of these back in moderation, shouldn't be an issue. So I don't want people to be hyper obsessive or orthorexic, which is disordered eating around healthy foods. But we want to have an honest conversation about, yes, there's some foods that don't love the human body back, and that's not restrictive. That's not toxic diet culture. It's just self-respect on having healthy boundaries with something that doesn't love you back. So first would be industrial seed oils. This is in no particular order. Let me just say that. This is just how it's coming in my mind. Industrial seed oils like canola oil, soybean oil, vegetable oil. Now, there are many people within wellness that make blanket statements and demonize things and make reductive statements. I'm not making that. I'm saying that it's the overconsumption of these oils and not enough of these long chain omega-3 fatty acids. So it's an imbalance of polyunsaturated fatty acids that are the issue. Omegas 3, 6, and 9. The modern Western diet is very high in omega-6 and very low in omega-3. So if someone is having nutrient-dense high omega-3 fatty acids from whole foods, then the occasional omega-6 vegetable oil or canola oil in some box packaged food isn't going to matter that much. So I don't want to overcorrect and create obsession, but I would look at these things, these industrial seed oils in packaged foods, because they are pro-inflammatory when they're consumed on a regular basis. Number 2 would be added sugar, which most of your listeners know that. So I'm not going to spend too much time, but
So hot tamales are bad.
Yeah. If they've learned nothing else in this episode.
If I've learned nothing, hot tamales are bad.
Yeah, hot tamales and Skittles are no bueno. It's like you can greenwash anything with some marketing jargon. It's like agave nectar sounds so freaking natural. Like they're squeezing that agave in that cup for you, but it's high fructose and it's lacking fiber. So it's going to create blood sugar problems in excess. So looking at even the nicer sounding added sugar, look at the grams of added sugar you're consuming in a day. People are going to be shocked when they realize that it's hidden in a lot of different things. Number 3 would be overconsumption of conventional dairy. It's not the dairy itself. It's what we've done to it. We've homogenized it. We've injected it with synthetic vitamins. It's a shell of its whole food self. And then 4th, gluten is in its original form fine for a lot of people, but we're overly consuming a food that is a shell of what it used to be. And we've hybridized the wheat supply, we've bleached it, we've sprayed it with stuff. So is it the gluten or is it what we've done to it? I tend to think it's what we've done to it and the overconsumption of it. And we don't properly prepare things anymore. It's not soaked, it's not sprouted, it's not fermented like sourdough. So we're just eating these foods that humans have not eaten for the majority of human history. It's what researchers call an epigenetic genetic mismatch. And our microbiome and our gut and our genetics are living in this sort of brave new world, and it's triggering genetic predispositions that have been lying dormant for 10,000 years, but are being triggered like never before because of this epigenetic mismatch. If I had the inflammatory core 4 plus 1, it would be alcohol, which never gets me any friend. But I would say like there's the healthiest amount of alcohol, according to the research, is none. There's not like a beneficial aspect of it. People say resveratrol in wine, but there's better ways to get resveratrol without neurotoxins involved. Those are the things you wouldn't do. The things you want to bring in are going to be optimizing protein, making sure at the very minimum you're consuming 100 grams of protein a day, looking at not fearing healthy fats, bringing in things like wild caught fish and grass-fed beef and grass-fed butter and all the extra virgin olive oil into your life. Not fearing fruits. I think sometimes people, especially if you're leaning into like the lower carb and the ketogenic, and that's if your diet or way of eating is causing you to fear a banana, get a new way of eating.
Yeah,
because it's not,
I love that.
America is not diabetic because we are eating too many fruits. Now, with that said, are there people that have insulin resistance that should limit fruits for a time because it causes blood sugar spikes? Yes, but it's not the food's fault. It's the environmental toxins, it's the chronic stress, it's these other things that are causing an overreaction from a blood sugar standpoint to an otherwise whole food. So to be clear, we do have people moderate carbs and lower carbs for a time while we heal the insulin resistance. And then we can work on increasing those whole food fiber-rich carbs and not fearing whole foods, which, is a good thing. But one tip I would say, if somebody that has digestive problems, having more cooked, soft foods. So think more soups and stews, because these otherwise healthy foods, think like a salad. I can't tell you how many people I see get bloated and digestive problems from salads. It's not the salad's fault. It's where we're at as a culture from a gut health microbiome standpoint, that focusing on more soups and stews for a time is like a proverbial siesta, if you will, for your gut. It's a break. It's a reprieve. So your gut can help can start on healing and mending and gaining resilience again. So I love putting people on weeks, 2 weeks, a month of soups and stews. That's very nourishing and grounding and restorative to a stressed out gut.
And you love bone broth too. You're a big proponent.
I love bone broth.
And I imagine you have patients, and I'm going to ask for a friend sitting right next to me. What about patients that come in with like adrenal failure? They're exhausted, their cortisol levels. I imagine, because we're living in such a world of chaos, what do you do with those patients? Asking for a friend.
Ask your friend, Dr. A. All right. So,
She's a good friend.
Yeah, she's a good friend. So what they call adrenal fatigue is actually a brain-based neuroendocrine axis issue. It's what they call a hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. It's the neuroendocrine communication line. The adrenal glands are just doing what the nervous system's telling it to do. So it's really nervous system dysregulation. It's the sympathetic, that fight or freeze or fawn, that stress response is overactive. And that parasympathetic, that resting, digesting, grounded state is underactive. So somebody that is getting up in the middle of the night to deliver babies and have done that for years and is constantly in that hypervigilant state because they've had to be, it comes with a price, right? It comes with a price, and you're pushing through and you're doing the best you can. And I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. We're going to offline. And look, let me just say this. All of us clinicians are the worst patients. So it's not just Dr. A. I'm the worst patient too. So I'm good at giving advice, but I'm not always doing it myself either. What we need to do is, yes, bring in acts of stillness as much as we can, optimize sleep, bring in things like breath work and meditation, and consistent practice of these things is paramount. Because most people don't want to quit their job. They can't quit their job. We have to, how can we move through our life the way that it is with some grace? And yes, some healthy boundaries. Yes, maybe saying no to things you wouldn't say no before, but you need to have some margins in your life for some stillness. So you can have sustainability with all you're gifted with. So that's these sort of individual conversations, and every situation is different on what is possible, right? From an external standpoint. But we do what we can to create margins in their life that's conducive to that parasympathetic. The vagus nerve is the largest cranial nerve in the body, and it's responsible for that resting, digesting, that aspect of the autonomic nervous system. So most people in this fight or flight, hypervigilant, wired and tired, anxious and exhausted state have what's called poor vagal tone. That vagus nerve is weak. So things like breath work and meditation and supporting gut health, and we bring in wellness tools like cold plunges and saunas when it's appropriate, because that supports vagal tone. But a specific class of nutraceuticals, if you will, supplements, botanical herbs that are really well supported by the science to be supportive of this brain adrenal axis are adaptogens. So some of my favorite adaptogens are things like tulsi or holy basil, which has been used in Ayurvedic medicine for thousands of years. Ashwagandha, same thing. I love functional mushrooms like lion's mane and reishi for these purposes. If someone is still serving their body a big slice of stress every day, the adaptogens are going to be supportive, but you really have to deal with the external as much as you can. But the supplements can be a game changer and supportive of this healing and modulate that brain adrenal axis in a positive way. Another supplement call out I will say in this area that is a significant clinical needle mover is magnesium. I run magnesium RBCs, a specific conventional magnesium test. It's deficient in most people because they're spending more than they're taking in. Their body's so stressed, they're depleting their magnesium levels. So supplementing with blends of magnesium can be really helpful here because it's like the nourishing to the nervous system. I love things like magnesium threonate, which passes through the blood-brain barrier, and the nervous system loves magnesium threonate. But also magnesium glycinate and other types of magnesium too.
And do you have a specific magnesium company, like I know that you're not getting paid to say this, or is there, because it's hard sometimes to find good supplements?
Yeah, I don't want to, obviously, I only have a few supplements of my own line, and I do have one that I use personally.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so it's called the Art of Being Well line. And I'm only saying that because it is third-party tested, high quality, and I've seen such great clinical success with it. So it's super creative. The name, it's called the magnesium. So you can tell like marketing is not my thing, but it's effective. It gets the job done. So yeah, we have that. But there are other brands out there too. I mean, the magnesium threonate is in different companies as well.
What is your platform called? How do we make an appointment?
Yeah, how can people find you? The Art of Being Well podcast.
Yeah, Art of Being Well podcast. And everything's at drwillcole.com. That's drwillcole.com. And we have different paths for different people. We have our concierge telehealth, kind of I was giving that example, where I'm talking to them or someone on my team's talking to them for one-on-one. Like part of our passion with this, because we've seen how much it improves people's lives, is to democratize functional medicine as much as we can to make functional medicine more accessible and more affordable for people. So we have group and hybrid telehealth models to lower the cost, to make it more accessible. So we have different paths for different people, but all that information is at drwillcole.com. And it starts with just determining which path is right for you. and leaning in. But our patients are just normal people that want to get healthy. Our top patient base are nurses. We have a lot of school teachers. We have a lot of entrepreneurs and engineers. Why do we see so many of these careers as our patients? And I found it's a common love of spreadsheets and getting to the root cause. And they want to see their numbers, and the school teachers want to get their grade looking good. The engineers want to get to the root cause. The nurses are like, I know it's stop. I want to get it better. So it's Excel spreadsheets that bring us together, and I love it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Will Cole. You can listen to him, see him on The Art of Being Well. His website has the most incredible information. The blogs that you do, I just read one today on Lyme's disease, brain health, you name it. You're just so knowledgeable, and you really do give that knowledge to the masses. So I want to thank you for being our guest today on SheMD.
And I look forward to being your patient.
Anytime, Dr. A. Standing invitation to both of you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks so much for joining us today on SheMD.
If you want to own your own health, a good place to start is by following us on social media at SheMD Podcast and by subscribing to our show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
For takeaways from today's episode, visit our website, shemdpodcast.com. We'll see you next time on SheMD. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for a physician's medical advice. You should regularly consult your medical provider in matters relating to your own health. Even though we share our honest beliefs on SheMD, some of the products and services we discuss may involve sponsorships or paid advertising.